Two babies were fed the exact same way, on paper. Same schedule, same formula, same loving parents. But one grew up eating with confidence, stopping when full, never battling food. The other spent years locked in power struggles at the table, overeating past fullness, or refusing to eat at all. The difference wasn't the food. It was 8 tiny, invisible signals their parents were missing every single day. Researchers call this hunger and satiety cue responsiveness. And it turns out, most parents are unknowingly overriding it dozens of times a week. Stick around, because mistake number 5 is the one almost every well-meaning parent makes without realizing it's rewiring how their baby understands their own body. The first mistake is finishing the bottle no matter what. A baby pulls away, turns their head, and the reflex is to coax 2 more ounces in. Dr. Leann Birch, a pioneer in childhood eating behavior research at Penn State, tracked how caregiver feeding styles shape a child's ability to self-regulate intake over time. Her work found that babies who were consistently encouraged to finish, regardless of their own cues, were more likely to lose touch with internal fullness signals later on. The mechanism is simple. A baby's stomach and brain are having a conversation through stretch receptors and hormones like leptin. And every time an adult overrides that conversation, the signal gets a little quieter. This doesn't mean one finished bottle undoes anything. It just means the pattern, repeated daily, is what matters. Mistake 2 is feeding by the clock instead of the baby. Rigid 3-hour schedules sound organized, but Dr. Ellyn Satter, a feeding therapist whose division of responsibility framework is still taught in pediatric nutrition programs, found that babies fed strictly on external timers rather than internal hunger cues showed weaker hunger awareness by toddlerhood. Babies are born with a functioning appetite regulation system. A schedule can support routine, but it shouldn't override the cues underneath it. Again, this isn't about tossing routine out the window. Good enough parenting means blending structure with listening, not perfection in either direction. Mistake 3 is mistaking every cry for hunger. A fussy baby gets a bottle before anyone checks if they're tired, overstimulated, or just want to be held. Dr. Katherine Karraker's infant cue research found that early cries are often nonspecific, and caregivers who default to feeding as the universal soother can accidentally teach a baby to associate any discomfort with eating. This is where the guilt spiral usually kicks in for parents watching this. So let's be clear, you cannot always tell the difference in the moment, and no one expects you to. Awareness is the goal here, not a flawless track record. Mistake 4 is distraction feeding. Phone in one hand, bottle in the other, baby's eyes on a screen instead of a face. Dr. Tronick's still face research at the University of Massachusetts, Boston, showed how much babies rely on reading a caregiver's face during feeding and connection moments to regulate their own state. When the face is missing, so is a layer of feedback the baby uses to know when they're satisfied. One distracted feed here and there changes nothing. It's the daily pattern that shapes the habit. Mistake 5, the one we promised, is praising an empty plate or bottle. Good job, you finished it all, feels like encouragement. But Dr. Birch's later research specifically flagged verbal praise tied to finishing as one of the strongest predictors of override eating, because it teaches a baby that pleasing the parent matters more than listening to their own body. It's such a small phrase, and it comes from pure love, which is exactly why it's so easy to miss. Mistake 6 is introducing solids based on age alone instead of readiness signs. Dr. Jodi Mindell's infant development research, alongside broader pediatric feeding guidelines, points out that readiness cues, like sitting with support and losing the tongue thrust reflex, matter more than a date on a calendar. Rushing ahead of readiness can create early negative associations with food texture and mealtime itself. Mistake 7 is the clean plate club mentality carried over from how many of us were raised. Portions are sized by what looks normal rather than what the baby is actually signaling. This one isn't about a single researcher. It's about generational habit, and it's genuinely one of the easiest to unlearn once you know to look for the cues. Mistake 8 is rushing the feed to get to the next task. Gulping, minimal eye contact, feeding on autopilot during a busy morning. It's not a failure, it's just modern life. But rushed feeds give babies less time to register fullness signals, which take a few minutes to catch up to what's actually in the stomach. Here's what this actually looks like in 3 moves. First, pause and watch. Before offering or continuing a feed, take 3 seconds to actually look at your baby's face and body, not the clock or the bottle line. Second, name what you see, even silently. You turned away, you might be done. Said quietly to yourself, builds the habit of checking rather than assuming. Third, follow the lead, not the leftover. If the cues say done, the feed is done, even if there's formula left, even if the plate isn't clean. A milestone tracking app can log ounces and timestamps with perfect accuracy. What it cannot do is notice the exact half-second your baby's eyebrows lift with interest in a new food, or the subtle turn of the head that means enough for now. Only a present parent, watching a real face in a real moment, can read that language. No app, no schedule printed from a website can replace that. Every one of these 8 mistakes comes from love, not failure. You are not doing this wrong. You are learning a language your baby has been speaking since day 1, and every day you watch a little closer, you get a little more fluent. That confused look on their face during a feed isn't confusion in you. It's just them waiting to be understood. And the moment you start watching instead of just feeding, you're not preparing to matter someday. You already do, right now, in this ordinary feed, on this ordinary day. If this changed how you see feeding time, consider subscribing. We post new videos every week. If it helped, a like goes a long way. See you in the next one. This channel is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for professional medical or psychological advice. Always consult a qualified professional regarding your child's development.